Let's start with the stages of the writing process. What do we do before we start to write, during writing, and after writing? Stage number one is called pre-writing. The pre-writing stage is where you brainstorm. This is where you go to the library, you read books about that particular topic or issue or problem. This is where you talk to people, you ask questions about that particular issue. If your topic is on the differences between men and women, you gather as much information as you can about that. List whatever comes to mind. Don't censor yourself at this stage. Let your brain flow freely. In your brainstorming, ladies and gentlemen, you can use a number of methods to list your points. You can use that method that we called mind mapping in class, where you draw a spider's web of some sort and then connect all the ideas that you want to raise. You can use mind maps to help you to brainstorm. So the second stage is the drafting stage. This is where you now look at all the information that you collected, the list that you produced in the pre-writing stage, and sort this list into categories. These categories are groups. These groups will help you to put information that is related together. So if you are looking at the causes of riots at universities in Zambia, and you have brainstormed and listed information on this problem, you are now going to say, okay, which of these points that I have written here are causes? And you put all the causes in one group. Which of this information I have written are effects? Which of this information qualifies as a solution to rioting in universities in Zambia? So when you categorize information in the drafting stage, you are simply organizing your information in groups so that it is easy for you now to see the similarities and the patterns. What you are going to get out of those groups of information is the outline. So you are going to draft an outline in this stage. This is where we come to stage number 3, which is the composing stage. So the composing stage is where you begin to write your paragraphs, your introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion. Now remember that for you to write the essay, you must have the outline. So these stages may not move in the way that I have mentioned them. In most cases, you have to go back and forth between the stages. For example, as you are writing your composition or your essay, you are going to be referring to the outline which you produced in the second stage. If the points that you listed in the outline, you feel that you're not satisfied, they are not enough, you go back to the brainstorming stage and add more points in that category. And then you come back and add those points to the outline, and then you put those points in the essay that you'll be writing. So the first 3 stages, you'll be going back and forth between these 3 because you are in the process of drafting, or rather writing the first draft. In the 4th stage, you are going to do some revision where you look at the macro level aspects of your essay. The macro, I'm referring to the bigger picture, such as, does your essay have a structure? You have to correct that structure. Is there continuity in the essay? Is it unified? Meaning, is there cohesion in your essay? Do sentences flow? Do ideas flow from one to the other? Do paragraphs flow from one to the other? Are you using transitions to join the ideas so that the reader is guided on how to understand the information? What is important in the revision stage is to make sure that you don't digress or you don't go off topic. So when you revise, you check your work to make sure that everything fits the topic that you are discussing. And in the next stage, you are going to do editing and proofreading. When you edit, this is where you revise your sentences, change sentence structures just to make sure that the sentences are saying what you want them to say. Proofreading is where you correct the errors, the mistakes in your work. So you check for errors in punctuation, you check for errors in your spelling, you check for errors in your grammar. So those are the key stages in the writing process. Let's remember that when you are writing an academic document, what you're basically doing is making an argument. And an argument in the context of academic writing is where you take a position on an issue. Taking a position on an issue means you have to defend what you believe to be true or to be correct. So if you believe that mangoes are better than apples, and you're writing an essay to defend your position, you have to defend yourself. And academically, how you defend yourself is by proving that your position is much more correct or it is better than all the other positions. But you need to show what the opposing argument is saying. It's like a debate where you have the affirmative and the negative side. The affirmative side is trying to prove, while the negative is trying to disprove the affirmative. In an academic essay or in an academic document, you are doing both. So you show your side of the argument, and then you also show the opposing side of the argument. But in the end, you still have to prove that your position is the most preferred one compared to what others have said. But for you to demonstrate that your position is the preferred one, it is the correct one, it is the one that the reader should walk away with, you have to demonstrate using evidence, using citations, using examples, that your argument is solid. How do you show that your argument is solid? You use citations and references. A citation appears in the body of your work. The references appear at the end of your work. For example, according to Walia 2025, communication skills is a good course. That is a citation. All the citations that you are going to use in the body of your work should appear at the end of the essay under a section that we call references. In that references, you are going to now bring all the citations that you used in the body of your work and list them in that section called references. The difference is that the citations will only have the author's name, the surname to be specific, the year of publication, and the page number if it is a direct quotation. So if I say Simpande 2025 argues that, and I quote, at the end of the quotation, I am going to include a page number. So Simpande is the surname, 2025 is the year of publication of the document that I am citing, and let's say page 25 is the page number where I got that specific quotation, which will be in quotation marks. So that's what you do in the body of your work. Now, in the references, you're going to get Simpande 2025, list it under the references section, but you provide more publication details about that citation. For example, if Simpande 2025 is an article that appeared in a journal somewhere, then you are going to have Simpande, the surname, and then my initials, and then the year of publication, 2025, and the title of the article that I wrote. And then you are going to provide the name of the journal where the article appears. Then you are going to indicate the volume of the journal, the issue of the journal, the page numbers where the article appears in the journal, and sometimes even what we call the DOI, the digital object identifier, which is more like a link. Why is this important? When you are looking at a problem in life in general, you have to figure out, has this problem been experienced before elsewhere? How have others experienced this problem? What did they do? When you write, you have to indicate who else has written about this. These are the citations now. Simpande 2025 did this using this method. Walia 1997 did this using this method. You have to show what has already been done. And then find your voice. Author X, Y, and Z have done this. And in this essay, this is what I have looked at. My work agrees with authors 1, 2, 3, but authors 4, 5, 6 disagree with my position. My position still stands because of, and then you prove now why your position should be preferred over the opposing side. That is an argumentative essay. So your assignments in all the courses must have citations and references. In conclusion, I want you to consider the following before you begin to write any document. The first one, you must always ensure that you identify your audience. Who is going to read your work? You must answer that question. What are the characteristics of this person or this audience that is going to read my work? Are they managers? Are they technicians? Is it an international audience? Is it a mixed audience of professors, of technicians, of managers, of ministers in government, and so on? You must decide who your reader is. Based on your decision, you will be able to now decide if you are going to use complex sentences. You're going to decide what kind of tone to use, how to address your audience. You're also going to decide the kind of vocabulary to use. So knowing your audience will help you to determine how to approach them. Things or characteristics like the age, the education background, social status, the class, you must take that into account. So that as you are writing your document, you know that these people will read and understand what I am saying. Number 2, you must identify your purpose. Why are you writing what you are writing? If you are producing a set of instructions for technicians, then your reason is that you want technicians to be able to use this particular equipment. So there must be a reason for writing what you are writing. Remember, we said that for you to be an effective communicator, you must have a goal in mind. You must have a purpose. You must have a reason, so that at the end of the day, you can go to your goal and say, have I achieved my goal? You can measure if you have been successful. And we say that being successful in communication is getting the desired feedback. So if your document does what it is supposed to do, and people use the information in the document as intended by yourself, then you have been an effective communicator. Number 3, try by all means to anticipate the expectations or the needs of your readers. When you write a novel, you always try to figure out, okay, who is going to read this novel? Is it old people, young people? And you also decide, okay, if they are young people or they are old people, then they are more interested in this and they are likely to want to see this kind of stuff in my novel. So you anticipate those needs and you meet those needs before the reader even gets the document. So when you tell a reader that in this document I'm going to talk about X, you are making a promise to the reader. You must fulfill that promise, deliver that promise. That is a contract that you are creating. So a thesis statement or the main idea that you create in your document, you are simply promising the reader that this is what I'm going to do to you or for you or with you. And this is how I am going to do it. So that when the reader now goes through the document, they can determine if you have done it or you have failed to do it. The last issue to consider is choosing the most appropriate writing strategy or writing pattern or organizational pattern. When you decide that you want to write a novel, you are going to use narration, and you are going to choose if your novel is going to be a romance novel, an adventure novel, an action novel, a crime novel, and so on. You have to choose how you want to package your information for maximum effect. If you are writing an essay about the effects of eating fish from a dam, you as the writer should choose the most appropriate structure. So a structure can be in the following form. You can use the chronological form where you are discussing things in the way they occur, such as first, second, third, fourth. If it's a problem solution kind of strategy, then you're going to start by stating the problems and then you address the solutions. The same if it's a cause and effect, you start with the causes and then you look at the effects. If it's comparison and contrast, you are going to be looking at similarities and differences. If it is description, you are going to focus on the physical properties of an object, a mechanism, or whatever you are describing. So you have to choose the most appropriate structure or pattern to package your information. All right, Leonard, you have your hand up.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask, in terms of citations, does it mean we have to expose ourselves to different reading materials?
Oh, yes. When it comes to citations, what that simply means is you have to read widely, guys. Because reading widely is a demonstration that you understand what is happening in your field. Taisia, you have your hand up?
My concern was, is it okay if you put a false citation?
It's not okay to put a false citation. It's never a good idea to deceive. Do your due diligence to make sure that you are not just telling lies in your answer or in your essay. Mwila, your hand is up?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Is there a specific number of citations in your academic writing?
No, there is no specific number of citations. Remember, the more citations you demonstrate or include in your work, the more you show that you have read widely and you understand what's going on. So there's no specific number of citations. But remember, don't write your citations as if you are invoking evil spirits, where you are saying, according to Simpande, according to Walia, according to Elizabeth, according to Mwila, according to what. We don't cite like that. So you have to structure your citations in such a way that you are creating an argument and the argument is flowing. So Simpande argues X. Joshua and Fred disagree with what Simpande says. However, Elizabeth has chosen a neutral position to this argument. That's how you would cite. All right. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye-bye.